Hi, Kim. Thanks for joining me this afternoon.
Hello.
Can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your involvement with the creative arts?
Yeah, I'm Kim from Greener Lavelle, and I'm a costume and puppet designer, maker and illustrator.
Brilliant. So I've seen loads of your work. I didn't realise it was all you. This absolutely beautiful creation from Hartlepool Day of the Dead. And I have to say, I saw one of your videos just before Christmas. It was quite heartbreaking, really. It was so beautiful. Um, to,
Which video of it? Was it Disconsortia?
I'm not sure what it was. It was like as outside festival, I think, in the streets of Middlesbrough
Oh,
just
it
before
was,
Christmas.
it was the Reindeer Parade from 2017.
Great. So that's a nice starting point. Tell us about that, because that'll be like a nice example of the kind of work that you do.
Yeah, I've worked on the Reindeer Parade for about 10 years at Middlesbrough. So I work usually with some groups of children from local schools and basically community groups throughout the area, and also I create large scale puppets or structures for the parades. I first started to get into parades with surf community carnival, and as part of your job you commission you got minimum of five community groups, but then you also got to do a structure too, and that was the bit that I was really interested in. Coming from a costume background, suddenly I had to make like these 3D structures, but because I was used to kind of seeing costumes come to life, I think with the structures being static, I was like, I want them to come to life. So basically just used to Google mechanisms, and then Dave, my other half, I kind of just tell him this is what I want it to do. And he has to come up with some mechanism, or we'll figure it out together, to bring them alive a little bit more, a bit more magic, for people coming to watch, really, a bit more engaging.
Yeah, I think it was the work that you did for Hartlepool Day of the Dead was the first thing of yours that I saw, and I have to say I'm involved in an annual event called Toxteth Day of the Dead, and you really put us to shame. I'm taking this as quite a challenge because we have a parade. We normally sort of parade for about 3 hours, but we turn old plastic milk cartons into little lanterns. But yeah, I'm thinking definitely need
I
to.
mean, we just, I only like me, and I work under the name Greener Lavelle because, well, initially I set it up with my friend Charlotte Lavelle, but she left to go on to teaching. But I kept the name, and it kind of it suits it because it's not just me; it's a team. You know, I'm kind of the, I don't want to say the boss, but it's me. But Dave helps with mechanisms. I bring in other artists as and when I need them. So most of the kind of work that I do, it's never just me on my own. It's my concept, and I kind of oversee it. But I bring in a lot of other people who have different skills to be able to kind of realize the final thing. Apart from my illustration work, which is just me.
Terrific. So, is this always been something that you've done? Have you always been involved with the arts, and how did you get into it?
Um, I've kind of always been interested in art. I would always draw copy of Christmas cards or copy cartoon characters when I was young. Would one of my first puppet, well, my first puppet that I remember making was a little finger mouse puppet in primary school, and the teacher said, "Oh, I've got to go and teach my brothers here how to make it," and he was like in he's 4 years older than me, so I had to go and teach his class how to make this finger puppet. So it was weird how I ended up doing puppets now, from when I made that finger mouse thing. It's probably a bit rubbish, but they liked it at the time. So I was always kind of interested in art, and then obviously through school and college and everything. But professionally, I've been doing it freelance since I graduated in 2002.
And what, I mean, other than the Reindeer Parade and the Hartlepool Day of the Dead, um, who are generally do you work for, and how does that come about?
Most of the work comes word of mouth, which is a really nice way to get get work. And being freelance, you don't have a monthly review or anything like that. You don't always get feedback, so the only feedback you get really is repeat work. So luckily I do get a lot of repeat work, so that tells me that I've done an okay job. But I've worked a lot for museums doing historical costumes throughout the country, sent some costumes to Australia. Theatre, I've worked for Middlesbrough Youth Theatre on quite a lot of their shows over the time. I just do all sorts, like it spans all of the creative, the cultural sectors really. I've done costumes for Middlesbrough libraries, just anywhere really. I think because I do so many different things, it's easy to span all of the cultural sectors, isn't it? Yeah, diversify.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's that kind of crossover is really interesting. So kind of the big question, I suppose, why do all this stuff? Why make a life for yourself in the arts? What is it that it gives to you or does for you personally, and what kind of wider role do you think it plays in society?
I love creating something out of nothing. I love the magic, the response that you get. You can work 18-hour days, which I do a lot of the time when I've got a job on, but then you go in the parade and the crowds love it and the kids love what you've made, and someone's like, oh, like a little kid will be like, oh look, it's a turkey, and they can see me carrying the head with a pole, but they're not bothered, it's still a turkey. It's stuff like that it just, the long hours, just it doesn't matter. When the event happens, it's just worth absolutely every second. I proper love it. And I think obviously in the wider community, I think everybody should be a bit creative. I think obviously there's a lot of stuff about mindfulness, but I just think just getting stuff out of your head, really, isn't it? It's just getting ideas. It doesn't matter how you present them, what you do, even if nobody sees them. It's just kind of getting outside your head a little bit and putting it somewhere else, whether that's writing or a drawing or anything. I think it's just really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think coming on to the last question, I think it's been with lockdown would have been impossible without art in one form or the other. Even if it's Netflix, that's still art.
At first, I couldn't do any art in March. It was really weird because I was seeing like friends who aren't generally creative turning to doing creative activities, and I was like, how come I can't do any? I felt like that, like I'll never do anything creative again. I think it was because with the lockdown and again now it's because most of the industry is closed, and obviously organisations are coming up with really clever ways to still employ artists, and it's really forward thinking that they're trying to sustain artists now for the future so that we're still available when things hopefully go back to normal, or some kind of normal that we're used to. But I think why I couldn't do it is because it was really like packaged with uncertainty. Suddenly my job became really uncertain, and that's difficult for me. So I was like kind of avoiding it. The only thing was certain that I wasn't doing it, I guess. So just totally avoid everything. And then slowly it came back, which it does. I mean, you've got to trust the process. Sometimes, like, you get creative block and you're like, what if no ideas come? And I never ever trust, even though it always does, I never trust that it will. I think I'd learned by now after 18 years freelance it will come back, but I never take it for granted. I think I feel lucky to be able to have that creativity, and lucky to have the work that I do for me to have the output for it.
Absolutely. So are you making any plans? Are you just sort of taking things week by week to see?
Yeah, pretty much week by week. I've been doing like some graphic design work as well, which is kind of nice. Nothing really beats making a physical thing. you know, I enjoy the graphic design work, but sitting at the laptop isn't the same as creating as a monkey, for example. So yeah, we're just seeing what comes. I'm enjoying working on my sketchbook project, which came off the back of doing a film. I did normally do costumes on films, and Laura Degnan, you probably know Laura, asked me this one time, oh, it's not, say no if you don't want to do it, but maybe you will. Would you do some illustrations for this film that we're doing? And I was like, I totally will. And I loved it. So she only wanted 3 double-page spreads, so I kept them going. So it's kind of like, I want to, because I bought a book from a charity shop, a knackered book, and like cut the pages out and then put my like 3 double-page spreads in it to make it look like a substantial book. And then I was like, it'd be class if I could do that whole book myself. So it's 400 pages. I think I'm like about 17 pages off 100 sides. So I've got a long way to go, but I'm really enjoying kind of having the time to concentrate on that, because it's just something that I do in between projects. So it's been really slow, like kind of for the last 3 years, well, it'll be 4 years this year in the summer, that's been going. But I've, since lockdown and everything, I've kind of been lucky to be able to spend time just concentrating on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that there's different things that happen when you're just doing something for yourself, and compared to when you're doing something to working towards an exhibition or performance or parade.
It's kind of doing something without a deadline, and also like you're pleasing yourself, aren't you? And like even with the most flexible clients and briefs, you're still working with some kind of parameters that, you know, whereas you're doing your own thing, you're literally just doing whatever you want. So like I've just got my website redone with a shop, so I've been selling my illustrations through that, which is like brilliant and a really positive step for me and the business. It's had a really good start, so kind of add to that collection as well. Yeah, that's really cool.
Brilliant. Well, I'm glad you've been able to do some kind of work, and you know, I can't wait till we're back out there. It'd be really nice to meet you in person, and I can't wait to come and
come and visit the studio.
Absolutely, yeah. Really look forward to it. Thanks for finding me the time, Kim. This has been really lovely.
Thank you. Bye.